I'm joined today by Lars Magnus Roys, Norwegian journalist from TV2, as we look ahead to St Mirren and Kilmarnock making the trip over to Norway this evening to take on SK Brann and Tromso. Lars, great to have you here on PLZ Soccer to offer a Norwegian insight into proceedings this evening. How is the confidence amongst the Norwegian public ahead of these games this evening?
Thank you very much for having me on, first of all. I think the confidence in Norway is quite high, actually, especially in Bergen, where I'm at right this very moment, actually going to Brann St Mirren later tonight. I think what we saw from Brann in the first game, it was... what should I say? A bit unfortunate for Brann's sake that it didn't get away with a win, and it probably should have been more goals. And then if you look at Tromsø against Kilmarnock, obviously they had a lead until injury time. So I think both sets of teams, both Brann and Tromsø, are quite... what should I say? Yeah, confident, having the home advantage in the final leg.
Both sides, of course, conceding goals very late on in that first game. Was that a disappointment for both sides, not coming away from Scotland last week with 2 wins?
Oh, definitely. When you're goal up in an away fixture in Europe, you always want to have that advantage going into the home leg. And with Brann and Tromsø conceding so late, it was a bit of a sour one to take. But I think both Brann and Tromsø gained a lot of confidence from the first game. And I think they will take that into the matches this evening.
Given that both the Norwegian sides are 18 games into the league season and have also had a break in the domestic games this weekend, whereas Scotland have only had 2 games so far, do you think that's a definite advantage for both Brann and Tromso?
Oh, most definitely. I think the Norwegian League has, this is something they've done the last few years, where they've made it easier for teams to get into Europe by having a break in the normal league. So basically they postpone matches, or in Brann and Tromsø's case, they've played matches earlier in the league, so they have time off in between the qualification rounds. So basically they can put all the eggs in the Europe basket. So that's definitely an advantage. And as you mentioned, with the Scottish League only played a few games, whereas the Norwegian teams have played almost 2/3 of the league season already. So I think that's an advantage for Norwegian teams. Then again, there aren't often that Norwegian teams qualify for group stages in Europe. Obviously, we have the exemption with Bodø/Glimt in recent years, who are either going into the Champions League or Europa League next season. But I think for Brann and Tromsø, making the playoffs for the Conference League is a very possible scenario in this case, after good results in Scotland away last week.
If we look at Tromso, obviously they had a good season last year, struggled somewhat this campaign, currently sitting 13th in the league. Where has it really gone wrong for them? So
for Tromsø, it was a very special case this winter, because they've lost their head coach, Gaute Helstrup, to the bitter rivals Bodø/Glimt. He went there to become an assistant manager, which was a move that shocked Norwegian football. They also lost their best centre-back, Jostein Gundersen, to Bodø/Glimt. So they have lost 2 huge profiles at the club. And last season, based on their squad and resources, what they did last year was extraordinary. So even finishing 3rd, they were a few goals away from finishing 2nd even in the Norwegian League. It was a fantastic season for Tromsø, almost a bit overachieving last year. So basically losing to a huge profile and a bit overperforming last season. The fact that they are and as well, which should be mentioned, is that they had a horrific start to the season, losing every game for quite a while. So they started to gain a bit of momentum, as we saw in Kilmarnock last week. They have attacking threat Lars Magnus Roys is one of the guys to keep an eye on, the striker. He's been on form recently, so I think Tromsø can cause Kilmarnock a bit of trouble tonight as well.
And if we take a little look at Brann, of course, you said you're going to that game this evening, currently sitting third in the Norwegian League. How do you rate their campaign so far this season?
For Brann's sake, it's been quite good. Not as good as it could have been, I reckon. Brann are one of those top teams in Norway now who... the objective Norwegian supporter who'd want someone to challenge Bodø/Glimt, they would look at teams like Brann and Molde and Viking, hoping that they could challenge Bodø/Glimt for the league title. Bodø/Glimt again are doing quite well, but there's still hope for the teams below. But Brann, after having a few troubled years, they were in the first division a few years ago. Then they got promoted and been a top team in Norway ever since winning the cup in 2023. And so far the season has been quite good. They had a bit narrow wins, and I think they should be okay, satisfied. They would have hoped for a bit more, but I think for Brann's sake, it's all about Europe at the minute, both in terms of getting the excitement from supporters. The European matches here in Bergen are something quite special, and we see with the away following as well at St Mirren the other day. It's a huge following on such a short notice. So for a fan of Brann, playing in Europe is huge, and also the financial aspect, getting cash on the books is very important for Brann. For them to win the league this year in Norway was always going to be a very, very, very difficult task. Bodø/Glimt and other huge favourites, and then Molde are sort of the team below that. So that Brann are third is basically where you could expect Brann to be at this moment.
A lot of people already writing St Mirren off after seeing Brann's performance last week in Paisley. Stephen Robinson, the St Mirren manager, he's countered that by saying they can't really play any worse and they have to up their levels again this week. Can you offer any hope to the St Mirren fans that they can get something over in Norway this evening?
Most definitely, they can. I would say the Brann are favourites, playing at home. It's even a bit of rain, as it was in St Mirren the other day, and Bergen. Well, people from Bergen are used to the rain, so. But in terms of the footballing aspect, you saw what St Mirren could do. They have a physical aspect, which Brann have to deal with, and being away from home, St Mirren can be even more ruthless. Like they don't necessarily need to dominate as much. Obviously, Brann dominated the game in Paisley, and I expect that to be the case. But then again, we've seen teams come to Brann Stadion this year. Fredrikstad, a newly promoted team here in Norway, they came to Bergen and won 2-0, which was a shocking win, really. But what they did was sit back. They used a lot of time on that ball situation. They were annoying the Brann fans really much. So if St Mirren can be, what should I say, very ruthless and use the sort of dark arts of the game, then I can see St Mirren get the result. And then I should applaud as well the St Mirren away following. They've been making their mark on Bergen already. We've seen videos of them in pubs and taking over. So with great support from the away end and in a European fixture, which also means so much for St Mirren, there's obviously hope for St Mirren. However, I would consider Brann favourites.
Just on that, have you come across or met any St Mirren fans in Bergen so far this week?
Yeah, I have. I was in a football shirt shop yesterday, and what's the older St Mirren fans came into the shop. They were both dressed in. I think it must have been the St Mirren away shirt or something, black in with some pink on or something. But yeah, they were friendly guys. I lived in the UK for a few years, and you guys are always so polite. So I expect. I expect sort of the Scottish people to live up to that standard as well.
One player for Brann that really impressed last week, Felix Myhre, up front. 25 years old, could he be one of the next of this generation to come out of the Norwegian League and potentially move to one of the top 5 divisions?
Felix Myhre has been a quality player for Brann for a few years now. He's one of those dynamic midfielders who can do a bit of everything, and is so easy on the eye, so tidy on the ball, such a good dribbler. I think a top 5 league is maybe too much of a jump for him. However, he is a quality player, and in the right system, he would do greatly. If Brann can keep hold of him for a few more years, that would be great for Brann. He is by far Brann's best player in my opinion. He's been so good for a few years now, and you'd expect clubs in, say, the Netherlands, Belgium, maybe Zweite Bundesliga, to look at Felix Myhre and go, this is a quality player. If he was, say, 20, you reckon possibly a Liga club or Bundesliga club could be looking at Felix Myhre and go, yeah, this is a guy we want to sign. However, he's 25, as you mentioned, and I think, but I do think it's coming to that point where he's too good for Brann. However, last summer he signed a long-term contract, so it won't be cheap to get him out of Brann, put it that way.
And Lars, it's got to that point I'm sure you're looking forward to. I'm looking for your score predictions and who's going to go through this evening.
Shall we go both matches then? Tromsø Kilmarnock, well, as a Norwegian, I would have to back the Norwegian side. I do apologise to all the Scottish viewers out there. But we'll go for a Tromsø Kilmarnock 1-0 win. It's going to be a feisty game. And I think in Bergen, for the travelling St Mirren fans, I hope for an away goal for you guys. But I think Brann, as we saw on pace, will dominate the game. And I think that Brann will win 3-1.